Hello and welcome to Mcedam's universe of comic book, and manga collection. Uh, I've decided to put all of these into one video because I don't have a lot, as you can see. So what I've decided is I'm going to put them all into one video, which I'm doing now, and I'm going to put the time codes in the subscription, and then you can then like skip to say, if you want to look at my comic book collection or my manga collection, and there you go. But let's start with my comic books first. Avengers Kree Skrull War. It was alright. I find it kind of funny that the Krees or the Skrulls don't appear in the cover. Well, Krees don't. Skrulls can transform, so I guess they could be honest. But it was alright. It got distracted a lot, but I guess that was for the times, you know. A lot of comic books those days with huge storylines used to get distracted a lot. Nova Origins. This is the first one of the Marvel Now line. It's good, but I felt it was just like ripping off Spider-Man. It felt a bit too much like Spider-Man. This Nova's story arc felt a bit too much like Peter Parker's. Speaking of Peter Parker, we have Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1, War of the Symbiotes, which I love the Ultimate Spider-Man line, but I feel like this is a really weak story especially compared to the rest of them, because mostly they're really well written and all that. Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Comics Volume 4, which is the Death of Spider-Man, which I absolutely love, and it's one of the best comic book deaths, or deaths in fiction. I really love this cover. It's really heartbreaking and sad. Yeah, it really felt like the end of this Spider-Man, and now they've brought him back in the main continuity, or they sort of have. I don't know. I'm not really up to date, but yeah, it's really sad that they brought him back because this was such a great storyline to finish off a character, and to see him coming back, it just makes it feel like a waste. Right then, these are all my comic books in the black spines because I love it when spines all match up. And so yeah, these 4 books be here are Marvel Platinums, which is like the best of. So sorry if I don't get into details about the story. This is Marvel Platinums, Iron Man, Captain America's, Thor's, and the Avengers. And now we get back onto our many stories. And the first one we got is Thanos Rising, which I really enjoyed. I really love the idea of Thanos, this character who's obsessed with death. But I'm not really a fan of the fact that he's in love with the human, with like an actual character. That's why he loves death. It seems like a cop out compared to this really creepy idea of somebody just doing it for the sake of they loving the concept. But if you can get over that, it's a great read. I highly recommend it. Iron Man vs. Whiplash. It's a great story. It's a bit bland. It was the first comic book I ever owned, and probably the first one I ever read. It was a great read. It's not amazing. Probably my nostalgia's holding it back because it was the first comic book I ever read. Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine. I mainly got this because I didn't have any X-Men comics. I didn't have any Spider-Man comics at the time. So I got this one. The story's a bit weird. I mean, you think about these characters and you don't think of this type of story. It's like time traveling, and it's really bizarre. And I don't know, I wasn't really fussed on the story, but to see these characters interact in the way they do in this story was amazing. If you like character stories, the story's mostly centered around characters, this is great. Maybe not for the story, but there you go. And now here are my Thor God of Thunder collections. They're written by Jason Aaron, which is one of my favorite comic book writers. We got the God Butcherer and the God Bomb, which kind of like a two-parter of themselves. Which it's a great story. One of my favorite comic book storylines ever. With he meets like his young and older self to beat up this like his greatest fear, and it's really awesome to see. The Accursed, another of Jason Aaron's run. It was alright. It was a bit bland compared to the rest of the series, but it's still a great story. Still a great read. There's some really creepy moments in this one, which I think I prefer over to the others, but overall, it's not as good. It's not as good as the other the three. Last Day of Midgard. I really like the stories. There were two stories, but it kind of like mixed and matched them, which is fun. But sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes it did, and yeah. And it was disappointing not to see young Thor when we had old Thor come back for his own little story, which kind of not intertwined with the other story at least. I mean. And now we got to my Guardian run, which, as you can probably tell from my other video, I read the comic book mainly to become a fan before the movie came out, so I can see that movie first. But I actually really got into this, even though the first one, the Cosmic Avengers, didn't really get to me that much. It just seemed like a bit of a silly space storyline, which I hoped for a silly idea would have taken off to make an epic storyline, and then people could take this more weird concepts into a much brighter, epic storytelling. But this is the one I mostly consider the first good Guardians of the Galaxy comic, which is Angela, which is the first appearance of Angela in the Marvel Universe. Her costume was a bit risque. I'm not a fan of her costume, but it was a good read. Then we got the Guardians of the Galaxy and all new X-Men's crossover, the Trial of Jean Grey, written by Brian Michael Bendis, who's he has some good comic books. He has some not good comic books. I would consider this like it's got his style in this one the most, I think, out of the rest of the Guardians. It's really wordy, which is Michael Fassbender. What am I on about? Brian Michael Bendis' style, but this was a great read. I really liked how they matched up the cosmic side to the X-Men side. It was really fun. Guardians Disassembled. It was really cool to see Venom in it, and it was really cool to have a cameo from Captain Marvel, who is like one of my favorite comic book characters. But I felt this was a really weak compared to the rest of the other stories that came previously, but it was still a great story. Now this is the Star-Lord's his own title, Face It, I Rule. It was I don't know, I wasn't really fussed on this. It was a bit bland, it was a bit boring. There were some great moments, like when he gives money back to the orphanage after taking away the diamond. But it was, I don't know, it was a bit bland sometimes. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Original Sin, which has got like the worst cover of them all. It was more like 3 separate stories. Oh, bugger, it's dropped. It was like 3 different separate stories. The first 2 are great. I especially love the one where the actual Original Sin, where we saw the backstory of how Peter Quill got out of the Cancerverse. But I wasn't fussed on the Planet of the Symbiotes storyline. And that ends my my Marvel run. Sadly, these are the only DC comic books I have, which are Injustice, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which I thought were a great read. I'm a big fan of the game, which is based off, and I mainly got this to catch up on the game, and it was a really good read. Now, call me biased, but this is my favourite comic book series ever, which is Doctor Who meets Star Trek, the Next Generation cast. It's really awesome to see these two characters, which are like my favourite characters, like combined. It's really awesome as well to see the original cast, which is my favourite cast, meet Tom Baker, which is my favourite Doctor. Even though it was a really short scene. I wasn't fussed that they picked the newer Cybermen or the newer style of Cybermen. Some of the continuity didn't work, but on its own separate story, it was an amazing read. You've got to read this if you're at least one of the fans of these shows. Ooh, I'm out of breath now. Okay then. And now here's my books. As you can see, I don't have a lot of books, but there we go. Revenge of the Judoon, which was a really cool read when you meet Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the Sherlock Holmes books. That was a fun cameo over there. Oh, buckets. There you go. I think Donna's my favourite companion of the new run, so it was great to see her in this book, and it was great to see her, being Martha and helping the Doctor and all that. The Sontaran game, I wasn't really fussed on this. It was kind of like a generic horror story style story, but it wasn't like a horror themed, which is I found really odd. And then it went to some sort of like Hunger Games style, and it was really bizarre. I wasn't really fussed on this one. Code of the Crinitine, whatever they called, which only had one appearance in the show. I thought it was really cool to see one of these a lesser known villain come back in a book. So I really thoroughly enjoyed this one. Magic of the Angels, which I think was the first book that I read in the Doctor Who quick read book line. I really love this idea that basically the world's in peril because any image of an angel becomes itself an angel, and they're going to put it on TV. So there's going to be a bunch of angels on the planet, and it was just a really cool read. And it was also like taking the mick out of like Britain's Got Talent and all that, and it was really fun. It was a really fun story if you want to pick that up. The Silurian Gift, which I thought it was alright. Wasn't the best, neither was it the worst. I think it was lacking a companion. I think the story, the way they told it and the way they wanted to tell it, it really needed a companion. The Little One, which is a little horror story. This is the first book that I properly finished, which my girlfriend gave to me, and I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. I love these like little horror stories. It's really fun, really creative, and it also kind of reminded me of myself that like you get obsessed with like a TV show from like years ago, and you want to know more about it, and you find some really dark like history about it, and I just loved that. I love that idea because I can relate to that. And from the same writer, you got The Escape, which is about these two people swapping, and so one of them can break out of prison. And it was really fun. It was really sweet to see these two characters interact with each other, and they want to break out. Well, one of them wants to break out. One of them likes being in prison. And it was really sweet to see these two characters like intertwine and get to know each other more. It was really nice. Blackout. There you go, Blackout. It was a really good story. It was a bit confusing at the start, and you didn't know where it was going with this, and what the hell was it all about at the start. But then when it got like to the end, it picked up at the end. So mainly, if you like reading stuff all the way to the end, then this is a good book to read. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I prefer this to the film, mainly because Neville, which is my favorite character, got more to do, and there's more scenes. But I think there were some scenes in this that were unneeded and were thankfully, taken out for the film. I didn't get any more, mainly for the fact it was a pain to read, as I have problems with reading, and so this took me like months to finish. And now to the first book I ever owned, which is Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets, which is Captain Underpants is these really like short books that some guy wrote years ago, and they were a lot of fun. And as you can tell, they were really cheesy, really stupid kids books, and I loved them growing up. I used to have like all of them, but I kept this one mainly for the fact it was my first one I ever bought, and this one because it was my favourite, which is Captain Underpants and the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman, which I really loved because he got one of these main characters that's been around in the corner a lot, behind the scenes a lot, and now you see her like become bigger into the storyline, and it was really cool. It was really and it was the fifth of the Captain Underpants books, and it was really fun. Goosebumps, Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. I loved this story, but the ending killed it. The ending was so bad. I couldn't stand the ending. Something to do with like aliens or something. I don't know. But it was alright. If you don't mind the ending, and it was a great read. This was the only one I've got, I'm afraid. Mainly for the fact that I kind of bought this out of my old school, and I forgot to bring it back. So there you go. And last but not least, I have my manga collection, which I'll have to turn to this side. As you could see, I got like these two books. Oh, I'll get onto that one later. Okay. We got Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time Part 1 and Part 2, which is a great read. I really love this story. It's really weird because normally stuff based off games isn't really that good, but this was really enjoyable and really fun. A Link to the Past, which is my first and favourite manga I have ever owned. It was fun, it was cheesy. They added a character which isn't in the original story of the games, which I thought she was a fun addition. So I would recommend pick that one up first, mainly for the fact that it's single, whilst these two are like two-parter. Right, I got these two random Naruto, mainly because my friend was giving them away and I was reading them. I was borrowing them off him and he had two of these, so I lent these. I got these, which are volume 45 and 47. I can't remember what happens in these ones specifically. I remember the storyline that these take place in, but I don't remember these ones, so I can't give you a review on those, I'm afraid. And my last one, Assassination Classroom, which is this really fun story. My friend recommended it to me when he found out... No, actually, he got this game which featured Koro Sensei, and I fell in love with the character, so I thought buy the first manga, and I just loved it. It was a great story, great characters. It was a really funny idea. You want to kill your teacher before he blows up the world. It was hilarious. Okay, and that's my entire collection on paper form. Oh well, I got other ones as you will see later. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon.